At the scene where the schoolgirl confessed to the school bully, I simply joined in the fun but triggered my superpowers. My body spiraled out of control, jumping through the crowd and clinging to the school bully, looking back at the crushed male god in the crowd, who was ruthlessly pushed away by me, and then looking down at the hand glued to the school bully's 8-pack abs. I swallowed. Is it possible that it was just an accident? The school bully hooked his lips and sneered. Do you think I believe it? Since I was a child, I had the supernatural ability to see the luck above everyone's head. Good luck is gold, bad luck is black. Of course, I also saw myself in the mirror. Special meow, Finch black. Therefore, I have been an unlucky physique since I was a child, and when I stay with people, I will automatically absorb their bad luck. Pure and pure reverse koi. Although God closed the door for me, and forgot to open the window, I still pulled out a crack by myself. I've found that I can throw away the good fortune of others, if they want to. For example, me, bow. Suck up your luck for me, Tilda. Friend, here you go. Poor boy, look at you unlucky. Then, a glimmer of golden light would leave my friend, and merge into my black mass. But now, I'm dumbfounded. An inexplicable attraction pressed my whole person into the arms of the school bully, and fell in the eyes of the people around me. That is, I rushed over without shame, holding the school bully and not letting go. I looked up, and this time I wasn't dumbfounded, but my eyes were almost blinded. It's really the first time I've seen someone in 4K pure gold, without a bit of black bad luck. It's so dazzling. I squinted and saw the golden tuantuan on the top of the school bully's head being madly entangled by my black tuantuan. Xiao Hei, you give me a reserve. I'm addicted to it, and don't want to let it go. A languid, low voice crossed my ear. I shuddered, trying to unravel my interpretation. No, it's an accident. Supporting the school bully's hard abdominal muscles, I used my strength to breastfeed to slightly distance myself, trembling and raising his hands. He just wanted to swear a poisonous oath to prove his innocence, but the attraction suddenly increased, and he snapped. There was an exclamation all around. I crashed into the school bully's arms again, and my hand was still on his chest muscles. School bully, he laughed angrily. Contemporary female scoundrels, aren't they? I was so embarrassed that I deducted Gio, quietly raising her eyes again. The gold group and the black group have been completely entangled. Goldie, you should stick to the bottom line. My eyes were red, and I looked like I was going to cry or not. Brother, it's really not me. The school bully was too lazy to speak, but grabbed my wrist and prepared to forcibly stop my sticking behavior towards him. But his hand turned around and grabbed the back of my head, and pressed it against his chest. This time, it's tighter. I listened to his heartbeat and muffled. It's not me, obviously. The school bully was even more surprised than me, that his hands were actually controlled by a mysterious force. He finally realized that something was wrong. Jean Dunbar, you don't accept me because of Natalie Rose. Olga Piers on the other side, cried so much that it rained. Jean Dunbar is a school bully. Olga Piers is the school flower. Natalie Rose refers to me. I suddenly remembered. This is the confession scene. I actually interrupted the schoolgirl's grand confession to the school bully. Although it was strange how the famous schoolgirl could know me, in the spirit of, I'd rather destroy 10 temples than break up a marriage, I immediately turned my head and explained, mistaken, HMM. Before I could finish speaking, my mouth was covered by Jean Dunbar. He wrapped his other hand around my waist. The hot heat of his palm imprinted on my waist through the thin skirt of early summer. Do me a favor, he whispered, then glancing at Olga Piers with a nonchalant smile on his lips. I forgot to introduce me. This is my girlfriend Natalie Rose. It's cute. My eyes widened. What nonsense are you talking about? What should I do if my crush male god misunderstood? By the way, what about the male god? I searched in the crowd, and the male god, who was walking side by side just now, was gone. Finished. The male god must think I'm a flowery female hooligan, and doesn't want to see me again. But I'm going to confess to him today. I wanted to explain quickly, but as soon as I took a step, I was forced to retract under the influence of a huge attraction in the next second. I want to cry without tears. Why are you so unlucky? In an instant, I withered, seeing that I was no longer making trouble. Jean Dunbar let go of the hand covering my mouth and rubbed the top of my head again, as if to reward me for being obedient and cooperative. He stared at the school flower. His eyes were dark, his facial features were delicate but sharp, and his cool and uninhibited personality made him even more uninhibited and unapproachable. Jean Dunbar's tone was stiff and impatient. Olga Pierce, we've met twice. I really don't know what you like about me, but I'm telling you clearly, I have someone I like. I don't like you. Stop dwelling on it. I didn't expect that the schoolgirl's public confession would be rejected, and I didn't expect the schoolgirl's spearhead to be pointed at me in the end. Olga Pierce wiped away her tears and glared at me. Natalie Rose, you're amazing. You've won this time, but don't get complacent. Sooner or later I'll win it back. Me? No. What to win back? I'm just a rescuer. Hey, how do you say that you seem to know me very well, and have a deep hatred, but I don't know you at all? Before I could figure it out, Jean Dunbar pulled me away, but I didn't want to go with him. I wanted to see if we could be separated, so I stayed put, but the attraction dragged me forward, making it seem like I was playing two-legged, three-legged with Jean Dunbar, which was very difficult. The eyes of the people watching the excitement around are strange and fiery. Finally, Jean Dunbar couldn't stand my little oil bottle, pick me up mercilessly, lift me and slip away. Sit down. Jean Dunbar pinned me to the passenger seat of his car, and his attitude was tough, and he couldn't refuse. Because of inexplicable attraction, a large part of our bodies is forced to touch and connect. So, now we're the upper body clinging together. The clothes in early summer are thin, and every slight movement is a fiery friction between flesh and meat, just like a lover's ears and temples grinding. My face was red and bleeding, and my whole body was hot. Shameful. Don't move. Jean Dunbar braced his hands on the back of the seat, his arm muscles tensing instantly, trying to counteract the attraction with brute force. The results are immediate. Unfortunately, as soon as I breathed a sigh of relief, he suddenly weakened his arm and smashed on me, causing me to gasp and hold back my tears. It hurts. Don't mess around. My chest hurts. Jean Dunbar's earlobe burst red, and he coughed unnaturally twice. I just wanted to see if I could separate. After all, it's unbelievable. After a while, he made up again. I said you were a hooligan before. I'm sorry. I apologize to you for misunderstanding you. The rumored unruly school bully, who likes to fight the most, bowed his head and apologized to me, and of course I didn't dare to hold on. And from my current angle, as soon as I raise my eyes, I can see that Xiao He and Xiao Jin have become a mess. Regardless of you and me, my heart is too weak to do it. To be reasonable, it seems that my little black is entangled with Xiao Jin first. What a sin! My voice was crying and trembling. Forget it, I also have a problem. My actions will indeed cause misunderstandings. Let's settle it. Considering that the current posture was too ambiguous, Jean Dunbar asked me to get out of the car again, and replace it with the forced hug. At the beginning, from afar, it looked like he was knocking me in the car. Jean Dunbar frowned. What now? Do you have a clue why we're glued together? I glanced at the increasingly lingering little black gold, full of despair. Of course I have a clue, but I don't dare to say that there are lonely men and women here. I'm afraid that after saying that, the school bully will make me blood splattered on the spot, and no one will collect my body. Jean Dunbar's face darkened. No, let's stick to it for a lifetime. I cried. No, when I think of the rest of my life, there will be someone who sticks to me like a shadow. Even if this person is handsome, I can't accept it. Seeing that I was so resistant, Jean Dunbar became disgusted and deliberately approached me to tease me. What are you doing? Hate me? A pair of affectionate peach blossom eyes looked at me directly. Warm breath and my breath intertwined. My heart beat faster, and my face was hot. Come on, don't get so close to me. I still have to chase the male god. I turned my face in a panic, and my messy mind suddenly flashed. Oh, that's right. I remember someone who might be able to help us. Let's go. Go find him now. Due to our current situation, it is really inconvenient for Jean Dunbar to drive. So when we walked all the way to the school gate with the strange eyes of our passing classmates, we still chose to take a taxi. In the car, the driver's uncle saw that we were inseparable, and shook his head. Now I am young. I am just tired. I Jean Dunbar. Ding dong. The phone prompt tone breaks the embarrassment. 3 roommates tortured in the dormitory group to extract confessions. Roommate A. Natalie Rose. What's going on with you? Go out and confess to the school grass. And get together with the school bully. Co. You. Roommate B. Hurry. I'm going to eat a hand of melon. Me. Cho. How do you know? Roommate C throws out the school forum link directly. Forum home title, Explosion. The schoolgirl confessed to the school bully in public, and was tragically snatched away by the flowers of the literature department. The school grass witnessed the whole process and left in pain. A big dog blood quadrangular love. Continue to report for you. Picture content, in the middle is me, and Jean Dunbar, affectionately embracing. Olga Pierce in the lower right corner is, crying red eyes. And in the upper left corner is the back of the male god Xiaokao, departing gloomily. At first glance, it really smells like that. If I am not a party, me, Kyo. Whoever wrote this. Slander. Roommate C throws out another picture of me being wall-knocked in the car by Jean Dunbar. The angle of the candid shot is very tricky, and it looks like a kiss. Roommate C. What else is there to quibble? Me, it's a bit complicated. I'll explain it to you when I'm done. I'm not going back to the dormitory tonight. Tomorrow Monday. Remember to help me take a leave of absence, CAC. Roommate B. You and the school bully are developing so fast. There's no going to go home at night. I'm afraid that the more I talk, the more crooked it becomes. So I just changed the subject. Me, by the way. Which of you is more familiar with Olga Pierce? Help me ask if I have offended her in any way. Jean Dunbar aside. Her hostility towards me is inexplicably great. Roommate A. I don't need to ask. It must be my freshman year. The forum selected the school flower. I remember, at that time, the freshmen had just entered the school, and everyone had fun and sent photos on the forum to select the new school flowers and grass. My roommate sent my military training certificate up, and it is said that the number of votes is unbeatable. When I found out, I was shy and happy at the same time. It's a pity that I'm happy and sad. I just sneaked on the forum to see what my classmates think of my beautiful rainbow fart. As a result, the screen went black, the forum system crashed, and all data was emptied. At that time, I just felt that I was unlucky, so I didn't pay attention to it. It turned out to be Olga Pierce, who was offended by this incident. Alas, beauty is diverse. Everyone is a beautiful little fairy. Why bother? Ding dong. This time it's Jean Dunbar's phone. He didn't look out the car window anymore, took out his phone, and after reading it, his eyebrows raised and he turned the screen horizontally in front of my eyes. Which was the forum post? Jean Dunbar chuckled. Girlfriend, we're on fire. Me. Ah, stop it. I can already imagine the picture of the male god scolding me. Scumbag. I actually want to step on 2 boats. Seeing that I was mad, Jean Dunbar smiled even brighter. He rested his elbows against the edge of the window, tilted his chin over his head, and glanced at me in a lazy, condescending manner. The hand on my shoulder twisted my head, and made my face to him, not allowed to dodge. I was angry, and for a moment I was angry. You're so annoying. Don't talk to me anymore. But after saying that, I coaxed. The school bully has a bad temper. He won't get angry and beat me, CAC. Sure enough, Jean Dunbar did it, and I had a brainstorm. Natalie Rose. Dare to say that I'm annoying. It's not a small amount of courage. I was wrong. Bring your phone. Oh, I was at a loss. Jean Dunbar sighed helplessly. Add a wish it. Female friend. The driver's uncle, who was silently watching the whole process in the rearview mirror, spit in his heart. Phew, a stinky couple showing affection. The person I'm looking for is my brother-in-law, who is 5 years older than me, a physics professor, who studies the stars of the universe, and is also an outsider. Over the years, he has insisted on taking the road of scientific astrology and materialist fortune-telling. Since I was a child, I have been particularly interested in my superpowers, and I have always believed that the so-called black gold luck is just a special particle matter that has not yet been discovered by technology. That's the way it is. Uncle, you must help us both solve it. Woo 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 cack. Uncle touched his chin. Your situation should be magnet principle. To put it simply, It's a magnet. One black and one gold correspond to the positive and negative electrodes to produce a specific magnetic field that interacts with each other. And then they stick together. Still amazed at my superpowers, Gene Dunbar looked up at the sky above him and asked me, "You can really see him in black?" He had a strange expression and an unbelievable tone, following my name to describe luck. I nodded, anxious to cry. Now Hay and Jin have become one. Uncle, what should I do? The uncle's face was profound. According to the method of the ancestors, it is very simple, as the so-called this one, yin and yang harmony ang. Gene Dunbar, is that what we mean by that? Meow, are you my own uncle? If Gene Dunbar hadn't restrained me, I would have scratched my uncle's face. Don't worry, I'm the kind of person who cheats my niece. I'm not done yet. The uncle covered his face. The ancestors' method is not good. It can be solved by scientific methods. Just destroy the magnetic field. How? Uncle smiled mysteriously. You're in luck. My latest research, the magnetic field bracelet, don't look small, but there is a huge magnetic field hidden inside, covering a diameter of 3 meters. With this new magnetic field intervening, it can destroy the magnetic field that you both generate, so that you can separate. I was skeptical, but put on the consequences and Gene Dunbar successfully separated. Just one. I had limited funds, so I made one. But both of you wear the same thing. It's fine. I was happy, but Gene Dunbar was keenly aware of what was in my uncle's words. Professor, what do you mean by covering an area of 3 meters in diameter? Uncle looked embarrassed. It means the distance between the two of you should not exceed 3 meters. What? Is it that others don't get angry and treat others as fools? I'm really... Uncle, you're not reliable. Who said that? Uncle blew his beard and glared. When I study and study again, I will definitely find a complete solution. Now it's your job to pack up your things and move them to me. He glanced at Gene Dunbar. I'm relieved to be right under my nose. Do you collect rent? My uncle glared at me. No, little picker. My face flew and I gave a thumbs up. Uncle, you're so reliable. I poked Gene Dunbar with my elbow. What are you doing? Thank you, Uncle. Wow, Tilda. Gene Dunbar was stunned for a moment and chuckled in a low voice. Okay, thank you, Uncle. Forum home update. Shocked. A big dog blood four-cornered love. Latest news. The flower of the literature department and the school bully live together. Not to be outdone, the school flower is in a double match with the school grass Nigel Samuel. Seeing this post, my whole blood pressure skyrocketed. Ah, why is everyone so bored and clinging to this little thing all day long? It's only been a week since Gene Dunbar and I lived with my brother-in-law, but the rumors have spread across the school. I would really appreciate it. What made my heart even more stuffy was seeing the photo of Olga Pierce holding my male god's arm and laughing. Gene Dunbar looked at me wrinkled like a bitter gourd, and was curious to look at the post on my phone. He flipped through it casually, and he was quite happy. We're on fire again. Girlfriend Tilda. I also read a few hot reviews. Natalie Rose and Gene Dunbar are a perfect match. Soft girl with tough guy. Eternal God. What? Aren't Olga Pierce and Nigel Samuel a good match? Don't stop when the landlord breaks the news. This melon tastes so good. Please, don't read it. My grief is indescribable. After a few days with the school bully, I lost my courage. I tugged at his sleeve and wailed with teary eyes. Brother Tilda, you study computers. Help me hack this post. Please, cack. What is the black doing? It says the truth. Gene Dunbar raised an eyebrow and joked casually. Could it be that you're still afraid that the school grass will misunderstand you? I thought about it seriously and nodded. Yes, I'm afraid he misunderstood. This week, I always wanted to wait until the matter was completely resolved, then explain it to Nigel Samuel, and then confess. But it turns out that if you don't seize the opportunity, it's easy to miss the person who cares. Gene Dunbar choked. His face darkened. What? Like him? I shyly poked my fingers. Well, I was going to confess that day, but... Gene Dunbar sneered. HMPH. Help me hack the post, please. School bully Tilda. No. Seeing that he simply refused neatly, my temper also came up. He shifted his ass to the seat farthest away from him, within 3 meters of the empty classroom. I caught a glimpse of Gene Dunbar's frighteningly smelly face, thought for a moment, and moved back to his side. Seeing that his face softened, I discussed, "It's okay not to hack the post. Then you can accompany me to Nigel Samuel, and I will explain it to him face to face." Natalie rose. Jean Dunbar gritted his teeth. "You asked me to accompany you to the wild man." I was aggrieved. "What a wild man? You speak so ugly." Just as we were back and forth, someone knocked on the door twice. Nigel Samuel stood at the door of the empty classroom, his smile as gentle as ever. "Excuse me." Natalie rose. "Can you come out for a bit? There's something I want to tell you." I panicked and got up. "I'm sorry." Natalie rose and I talked about something personal. "Can Jean Dunbar go a little further?" Nigel Samuel kindly reminded Jean Dunbar, who was standing next to me. Jean Dunbar narrowed his eyes and smiled defiantly. "I'm sorry. I can't live without her." I knew he was telling the truth, but I couldn't help but glare at him. It wasn't a deterrent, but it managed to keep Jean Dunbar out of the way. He leaned his back against the door of the classroom, his hands on his chest, and his eyes were not good, staring at us standing at the root of the outer wall of the classroom. I knew it was the farthest he could go, so I quickly diverted Nigel Samuel's attention. "Don't worry about him." "Nigel Samuel, what are you looking for from me?" I was a little shy. "I'm really sorry last time. I didn't mean to push you." Nigel Samuel smiled. "It's fine. Actually, I am the one who should apologize. And this is what I want to talk about this time." "Hey, what's the matter?" I was confused. "I'm sorry, but I approached you for a purpose." His smile became far-fetched, as if he couldn't speak himself. "I just happened to hear from a friend that your luck is very bad, but the luck of the people you stay with is very good. So everyone calls you reverse koi. I thought it was fun, so I wanted to try it myself." Immediately afterward, he pulled out a box of delicately packaged chocolates from his bag. "I made this box of chocolates myself, and my confession was pasted on the box. You and I accidentally dropped it when we left the study hall that day, and after thinking about it, I should return it to you." "I know what you mean, but I'm sorry, but I have someone I like." Nigel Samuel gave me back the chocolate, his face full of guilt. "I have something to do, so I'll go first." I saw Olga Pierce standing not far away waiting for Nigel Samuel, glancing at me with a smug look as if to say, "Look, I've won it back." I hung my head. My nose was sore, my throat was dry, and tears were pouring out. It turned out that Nigel Samuel left that day not because I was hugging Jean Dunbar, but because Olga Pierce confessed to Jean Dunbar. It's ridiculous, from beginning to end. Even being friends is my own passion. In the past, no matter how unlucky I was, I could coax myself to be good after a while, because I've always thought it's a really cool thing to have superpowers. But now, for the first time, I hate my superpowers so much. As for crying so sadly, at some point, Jean Dunbar walked up to me, and looked up and wiped his face. I know he heard everything Nigel Samuel said. I stubbornly bowed my head, not wanting him to see how embarrassed I was at the moment. I heard Jean Dunbar smack, and the next second, I was pressed against the wall. He lifted my chin with one hand and held it in place, and with the other he wiped the tears from my face with a wet wipe. The movements were rusty, but the strength was very gentle, carefully and patiently wiping every tear of my life. The young man who has always been invincible clumsily, shows his rare tenderness at this moment. "Jean Dunbar," I called him suddenly, and my eyes were sour. If it weren't for my superpowers, we wouldn't have intersected. I hate my superpowers. Natalie rose. Jean Dunbar called my name so seriously for the first time. He said firmly, "Even if you don't have superpowers, we're bound to cross paths." When I froze, he removed the magnetic wristband from my wrist. The long-lost attraction kept our bodies close together, and I was firmly trapped between his arms and the wall. I could feel his hot temperature, his hot breathing, and his own speeding heartbeat. He said, "So, I like you." My heart was pounding. He continued, "S superpowers. Because of it, we met so early." That night, Jean Dunbar was taking a shower in the bathroom, and I sat on the small bed that my uncle bought me, and secretly scrolled through the forum. "Those 2 posts are gone." I snickered. "It must have been Jean Dunbar's black. I can't see it." "The school bully is quite duplicitous. He said he wouldn't help, but he did it secretly behind his back." It's Sundeer. Just when I was secretly cool, A new post soared to the home hot list of the forum again at the speed of a rocket. The scale is not small. The tough guy school bully cried, and the soft girl was a flower. And afterwards he said with red eyes, "Life is for you." The picture is Jean Dunbar wiping my tears. Many people didn't click on the text, and just looking at the title made a lot of discussions. Oh, crying. The school bully is fierce tilde. Red-eyed literature. I'm a soil dog. I love to read it. Tie the flower. Don't pity me because I'm a delicate flower. He. Me. It's embarrassing to play with me. Who wrote this post? The titles are more outrageous than the other. Look at the little video. My face is so red. Jean Dunbar stood beside my bed after taking a shower. The neckline of his white bathrobe slightly open. A few drops of undried water disappearing down his collarbone. I stared at the droplets and swallowed my saliva, and my face turned even redder as I remembered the touch of my abdominal muscles when the school bully knocked me today. Jean Dunbar followed my gaze and lowered his head, silently tightening his collar. I really wronged you in the first place. You're not a female hooligan. You're a pervert. I was annoyed. Who? I didn't watch the video, and I didn't want to touch your abs. I suddenly got stuck. Don't admit yourself. I simply broke the jar and put my phone across Jean Dunbar's eyes. This post. Hack it. My expression was gloomy and compassionate. It's best to find the poster's address by the way, and then you can scare him so that he won't dare to write nonsense in the future. Jean Dunbar glanced at me after reading the post. Look at what I'm used to giving you. And you ordered me. It's a pity that I, who has seen through the nature of the school bully's arrogance, is so bold that I fly? I laughed and laughed. Those who can work harder. School bully tilde. Don't do it. And rejected me. It's okay. I know. Do it secretly. I'm not going to do it secretly. The facts written in the previous two posts were easily black. And this post is nonsense. And there is no need to be black. I'm not convinced. But you still said in the morning that there is no need to hack the post to write the truth. Why did you change it to a blind post at night? And there is no need to hack. You men are fickle. Jean Dunbar laughed. Okay, I'm not fickle. If you make the post true, I'll delete it for you, turning it into reality. Isn't that? He really wants to kiss. Cry. Stinky rascal. If you don't delete it, you won't delete it. I'm sleeping. I closed the curtain between the two beds and unilaterally refused to communicate. Not to mention that the uncle is unreliable. For 2 whole months, he didn't find a complete solution. It's just that the magnetic field range of 3 meters is expanded to 5 meters. I asked my uncle to try to expand the range by a few hundred meters, and he always said that the funds were not enough. Now the whole school knows that Jean Dunbar and I are on a good relationship like a conjoined baby. If you see one of us, you will be able to find the other within 5 meters. Going to the toilet is no exception. Because we have different majors, even if we accompany each other to class, we will still encounter the problem of time conflicts in professional courses. So for the sake of fairness, we agreed that one person would come in one turn at a time. But the school bully is worthy of pure gold luck, and every time he misses class, he perfectly avoids the teacher's roll call. On the contrary, I was unlucky. As long as I missed class, the teacher would call me by name. I pitifully hugged the school bully's arm and cried. My attendance points are almost deducted. He finally agreed to give priority to my major classes, as long as there was a conflict in the curriculum. The condition is that I am not allowed to sleep lazily on weekends and go out to play basketball with him. I really want to slap him. Can't sleep on the weekend? Is that still called a weekend? But when I thought of my few attendance points, I still agreed very unproductively. After the teacher whipped me again to answer the question, I collapsed on my desk like a salted fish without dreams. Damn, when is this kind of day ahead? Jean Dunbar had so much luck, but I couldn't. Ding dong. 3 of my former roommates sent me daily greetings. A. Natalie Rose. You're a bit of a monster. Me. What's wrong with that? B. In today's computer professional exam, half of the attendance points will be deducted for missing the exam. C. In this case, Jean Dunbar is still with you. Natalie Rose. Please accept me. Me. I don't know. I glanced at Jean Dunbar, who was playing a game. Slender and flexible fingers pointed at the screen, and the corners of his mouth were hooked with a lazy smile. looking like he was ready to win the game. I can't see the slightest distraction of missing the exam and being deducted half of the attendance. I suddenly felt a little guilty. I cried with the school bully and complained that the attendance score was quickly deducted. But I just exaggerated to show my bad luck. But now he is really going to deduct half of the attendance points. I poked Jean Dunbar. Why do you want me to take notes for you? He squeezed the phone, and his tone was fierce. Although the expression was not very reluctant, he still pulled my pen and notebook. You are lazy. I stared at the side of his face, and the guilt in my heart suddenly turned into an inexplicable throbbing. I clutched my chest. Not again. Lately, I've been watching Jean Dunbar's heart beat faster and inexplicably. If you think about it, although his attitude is a little fierce every time, it seems that I have never refused my request. I whispered to him, your major is taking an exam today. Why don't you tell me? If you miss the exam, half of the attendance points will be deducted. The exam seat is at the innermost end of the classroom. I understand in seconds. Since it is the innermost side, it must be more than 5 meters. I couldn't sit next to him and take exams with him like I did in class. Yes, thinking about it this way, if I have an exam, won't I be forced to abandon the exam? I grinded my back molars and dragged my uncle out again in my heart to complain. It's so unreliable. It can't go on like this. Since scientific methods can't solve it, then, my brain twitched, and I made a decision with a flushed face. I poked him again. Jean Dunbar, why don't we try the way of the ancestors? He finally turned his head, his dark eyes staring at me more and more panicked and shy. Just when I regretted it and wanted to take it back, he suddenly laughed, and his voice was slightly hoarse. Okay, try. It's night. My uncle went on a business trip, and Jean Dunbar and I were the only ones left. I sat on the couch. Jean Dunbar propped up the couch, and the crisp air enveloped me. What are you shaking? He looked down into my eyes. I'm inexperienced. I'm afraid. You think I have? Jean Dunbar took a deep breath. Forget it. No. I reached out and grabbed him by the collar, a little incoherent. Since you are looking for excitement, you must follow through to the end. Jean Dunbar was amused by my words. You said that. The words were indeed what I said, but I watched Jean Dunbar's face get closer and closer to me. I coaxed. I just wanted to say a pause, but I didn't expect him to kiss him directly and block my words. My hand was clasped behind my back. The lips and tongue are hot, hooked and tossed. Breathing and heartbeat felt halted for a moment. For a long time, he gasped and withdrew from my lips, whispering through my smooth hair, Natalie Rose, I like you. Be my girlfriend. My eyes were empty. My mind was confused, and I didn't react to his words. Because I looked up, I clearly saw that Xiao He and Xiao Jin, who had been entangled for many days, were separated for a moment. I was instantly excited. It really works. Just as he was about to tell Jean Dunbar about his discovery, his phone rang. My mom called. Because I haven't been home for too long, I was a thief and pushed Jean Dunbar away. As soon as I answered the phone, my mother's Hedong lion's roar shook my ears. Natalie Rose, the dead girl has a lot to do with you. If you don't go home on weekends or long vacations, you'll be in the wild with your brother-in-law. Right? No, it's just that there are a lot of school things, and it's too busy. What are you busy with? I warn you, don't fool around with me outside. Do you hear? This wasn't just going to be fooled. It didn't work out. It's your dad's birthday on Saturday, and if you don't go home for dinner, don't come back in the future. Mom. Before she finished speaking, my mother hung up the phone in a hurry. To end. For a moment, all my careful thoughts stopped. My mom won't let me mess around and tell me to go back on Saturday. I pursed my lips and shook the corner of Jean Dunbar's coat, unconsciously coquettish. School bully. Do you want to accompany me, Tilda? Jean Dunbar sighed, his end prolonged. So in what capacity am I going? My mind raced back to the kiss and what he had said when he kissed me. My face was red, but my heart was sweet. He lowered his head and replied, HMPH, barely a boyfriend. After officially being with Jean Dunbar, my mind was full of kisses and hugs. Because I made a major discovery, it turned out that kissing the school bully could rub his good luck. After 19 years of being a little unlucky egg, I finally experienced a European emperor. The teacher doesn't name him in class, grabs the red envelope and has the best luck. And he can also win the second cup of free order, if he buys a cup of milk tea. I was cautious and went home with free milk tea all the way, which was so rare. Jean Dunbar laughed at me. Look at your worthless look. I glared at him. It's like the darkness of the day and the night. Jean Dunbar leaned over and pinched my puffy cheek, and pecked my lips with a dragonfly. He laughed so badly. I like my good fortune so much, so I will rub it on you. I closed my eyes shyly, ready to kiss back. Natalie rose. The brother-in-law stood in front of the house and opened his mouth quietly. Me, isn't my uncle on a business trip? Why did he come back so soon? When I entered the door, my uncle glared at us with hatred. You haven't tried the ancestors' method yet, have you? I shook my head frantically. The uncle's face was better. I got the investment on this business trip for the next 2 years. I'll focus on solving your 2 problems. The range of the magnetic bracelet can be expanded as much as it can. Listening to what my uncle said, I gritted my teeth, and I flattered. Oh, uncle, in fact, we are not in such a hurry now, Tilda. The uncle sneered. I'm in a hurry. The next day, Saturday, Jean Dunbar and I went to my house hand in hand in my uncle's car. On the way, someone messaged Jean Dunbar. What's wrong? It's okay, Bevis Pittman. They asked me to play. Bevis Pittman, I know, Jean Dunbar's roommate. The previous post on the forum was written and played by him for tricks, but he didn't write it again after Jean Dunbar found the address. It's just that every time I see me, I call, little sister-in-law, which is embarrassing, because they often play together on weekends. I don't feel comfortable with that. When I arrived at the door, I asked my brother-in-law to knock on the door first to explore the way. My uncle glanced at me and went in by himself. When my mother saw my brother-in-law, she knew I was outside the door, and came out with a loud voice. But when I saw Jean Dunbar next to me, I was instantly dumbfounded. Knowing my mother's face control attributes, I struck while the iron was hot and introduced. Mom, this is my boyfriend. Handsome, right? Jean Dunbar is also very up to the clock and behaves unusually well behaved. Hi Auntie, my name is Jean Dunbar, and I'm Natalie Rose's boyfriend. My mom smiled so much that there were a few more folds on her face. Hello, the young man is so handsome. My mother seemed to think of something after the nymphomaniac, and glared at me complainingly. You kid, why don't you talk to me first when you bring someone back? At this time, a beautiful strange aunt came out of the house. It's Natalie Rose back. I haven't seen you for so many years. Sure, son. The pretty aunt looked surprised. Didn't you say something couldn't come? Jean Dunbar was even more surprised. Mom, I'm completely out of condition. My mom was the first to react. She sighed. These 2 children are really fateful. Natalie Rose, this is your Aunt Daisy. Her son and you have been engaged to kiss each other since he was a child. Doll Pro. And Jean Dunbar. As I followed my mom and Aunt Daisy into the house, I whispered to Jean Dunbar next to me. How many sons do you have? Jean Dunbar. I am the only begotten child. I can't believe it. It's too coincidental. Inside, my dad, brother-in-law, and Jean Dunbar's dad were already talking. Listening to a few elders chatting, I realized the reason for the whole thing. Because my brother-in-law was weak. He was sent to the Taoist temple when he was 5 years old. My mom was pregnant with me, and went to the Taoist temple to pray for blessings, and then met Daisy, who was pregnant with Jean Dunbar. The 2 hit it off at first sight, and decided to worship on the spot. As a result, when I was worshipping the handle, I suddenly had a stomachache and wanted to give birth, and with the help of a female Taoist priest who knew medicine, I successfully gave birth to a boy and a girl. There was also an old Taoist priest in the temple, who calculated the 8 characters for me and Jean Dunbar, and suggested that the 2 of us get married. He said that the 2 of us are a natural pair. One is lucky and the other is a big murderer, and no one else can replace it. If you marry a baby, you can let the children of Boziji bless the children of Boziji to grow up safely through marriage. When they grow up, they can let the children of the 8 characters be fierce, and prevent the children of the 8 characters from rebelling through marriage. I heard it so much. The only impression is, how outrageous. I don't even dare to write novels like this. I thought that my baby kiss with Jean Dunbar was already the most coincidental thing, but I didn't expect that there would be more coincidence. After eating, my uncle sneaked up to me and said, "Natalie Rose, it seems that there is providence in the dark. The ancestors' method is still quite reliable. You can try it with Jean Dunbar if you are mentally prepared. You can use the magnetic field bracelet first." Jean Dunbar. Uncle, don't your attitude change so quickly? SHHHH, do you know who my newly pulled gold daddy is? Dunbar Group. The uncle was straightforward. Oh, sooner or later, it's all a family. And what are you spending that unjust money to study the bracelet for? It just so happens that the research funds for other projects in my hands are also quite tight, so I'll work on those first. I still misread you, uncle. The uncle really did what he said, and disappeared and left after eating. Didn't even think about sending me and Jean Dunbar back? At night, Jean Dunbar and I didn't take a taxi, holding hands, walking slowly in the moonlight. But as he walked, he suddenly stopped. "Natalie Rose, let's not go back to my brother-in-law's house today." "Where are you going?" Jean Dunbar raised an eyebrow. "I have an apartment near the school. Would you like to see it?" Touching the affection in his eyes, I put my arms around his waist and buried my blushing face in his arms. My voice trembled slightly, pretending to be calm. Do you want to try the ancestors' methods?" Jean Dunbar chuckled and hugged me tightly, his chin resting on my neck. He hummed softly, "I just don't know. My little ancestor is willing to do it." "The little ancestor himself, me? I asked her for you, and she said, I do." Jean Dunbar. "I have a secret. Ever since I was a child, I could see a blob of gold on top of my head that everyone else didn't. I don't know what it is, but I can guess that it was because of that golden blob that I was surprisingly lucky, growing up. Maybe it's because everything I have is too easy to come by. So I develop an arrogant personality. When I first entered the school and was about to participate in military training, I found that some girls were always secretly filming me without permission. I simply deleted the photos from their phones and warned them not to do it again. As a result, the next day, there were sudden rumors that I had a big temper and beat people at every turn, and I was simply a major school bully. I don't care about this kind of nickname at all, but what made me angry was that the girls still uploaded my photos to the forum without permission. It's still the kind of boring school flower and grass selection. I couldn't get angry, so I wanted to directly hack the data of the school grass selection post. As a result, he went overboard and hacked the entire forum system. I'm a little sorry, because before it was dark, I glanced at the selection sticker of the school flower next door. The girl at the top of the list is particularly soft and cute, and she happens to be the type I like, but I haven't had time to see which major class she belongs to. Bevis Pittman asked me to play basketball at the playground. During the intermission, he suddenly motioned to me. "Look, Natalie Rose from the literature department." I looked in the direction. The first thing I saw was a black mass on top of a girl's head. It is particularly conspicuous from a distance. I was surprised. This is the first time I've seen something on top of someone's head, although it's not the same as mine. Bevis Pittman was excited. "How's it going?" "Look good. It's so dark." I'm talking about the black ball on top of the girl's head, but Bevis Pittman didn't know. "Isn't it? Natalie Rose is still dark." She stood in the sun, and she was so white that she was glowing. Hearing him say this, my attention shifted from the black ball to the girl's face. It's very white indeed, and when talking to others, he smiles very sweetly, like a marshmallow. I suddenly remembered, this is the girl who topped the list of posts in the previous school flower selection. This time I learned her name, Natalie Rose, because of the black ball on Natalie Rose's head. I paid special attention to her news. I never knew anyone could be so unlucky. Unlucky, poor and lovely. I wanted to get to know her and pursue her. If I could, I would like to share my good fortune with her. That day I found out that Natalie Rose was in the study hall, and I had to wait for her on the way to school. As a result, a girl suddenly came out and confessed to me. I didn't like her at all. There were people all around, and I saw Natalie Rose and a boy standing on the periphery from afar. I suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. The person standing next to her should be me. I didn't expect the idea to come to me, and the next second, I saw Natalie Rose suddenly jump over and hug me. She was soft and fragrant. My heart was beating fast. I could see the gold and black balls on top of Natalie Rose's heads. This is probably the reason why our bodies stick together. But my first thought was to be happy. It's so cute to see her scurrying round in my arms like a panicked fawn. For the first time, I had the feeling of my heart melting. So I unconsciously wanted to tease her. Natalie Rose took me to her brother-in-law. I just learned that she could also see the black group and the gold group. It's just that she's a little more special than me. And she can see the top of Evrion's head. Bevis Pittman made up my post, and Natalie Rose on the forum. Although there is a suspicion of exaggerating the gimmick, I am quite happy to watch it. After all, so many people have assumed that she and I are a couple. But she was not happy and asked me to delete the post. She was afraid that Nigel Samuel, the wild man, would misunderstand, and said that she liked him. I'm very angry. I'm jealous. But when I saw her rejected by Nigel Samuel, she cried pathetically. I feel distressed again. Forget it. In order to make her happy, let's delete the post. Also, the chocolate she made for Nigel Samuel was unpalatable. Too bitter. I like Natalie Rose more and more, but she didn't realize it yet. Every time she unconsciously coquettishly spoiled me, no matter what it was, I couldn't refuse. Natalie Rose likes to be lazy, and asked me to help her take notes. I was writing seriously when I suddenly heard her say she wanted to. With me, the little unlucky bastard is getting bolder and bolder. And this kind of thing is said. How can it be so cute? I deliberately promised her, and I wanted to tease her. I kissed Natalie Rose. Her lips are as soft, fragrant, and sweet to the heart as people's. I confessed excitedly. I was so happy to hear her call me boyfriend. It's another day of being adored by my little unlucky bastard. She actually held a cup of free milk tea, and went home cautiously. Alas, since she likes good luck so much, then I can only give her more rubbing. I really can't help her. I knew that Natalie Rose and I were a natural pair. The two of us have been engaged to baby kisses since we were children. It's just that my parents were afraid that we wouldn't be able to accept it, so they didn't say anything. I thought if my parents had told me earlier, perhaps. Natalie Rose and I are childhood sweethearts. I'm sure I'd like to let her rub my good fortune from a young age. However, the situation is not bad now. I hope that she rubs me for the rest of my life. After all, it's an exclusive little unlucky bastard given to me by God. The end.